Less than a year after Washington state lawmakers approved a parental rights initiative, majority party Democrats on Wednesday passed a bill out of the Senate that would rewrite provisions of the initiative. Here with more on this is the Center Square's Washington reporter Carlene Johnson. Carlene, what was the initiative that created what is commonly called the Parents' Bill of Rights?
Right. This was in 2024, a little less than a year ago. This initiative, 2081, an initiative signed by more than 450,000 Washingtonians, was submitted to the legislature. And then they had an option whether they wanted to, put it up for a public hearing, debate it, vote on it, or they could just pass it as is, or they could have offered some version of their own. What they ended up doing, because it was so hugely popular, was to pass it as it was written. It was almost unanimous. And so the Parental Bill of Rights became law last year. And just for folks that maybe aren't familiar, what it did is ensure that parents have access to their kids' grades, to information at school about a counselor maybe that they're seeing. And it was mainly inspired by all of the pushback that schools across the state were receiving from parents saying, hey, wait a minute, my kid's seeing a counselor with questions about gender confusion, or you sent my kid to see a doctor off campus and didn't tell me. Parents were outraged by that. And so that is what the inspiration for Initiative 2081, the Parental Bill of Rights, was. And again, it was passed by lawmakers, even those who had some issues with it, many of them progressive Democrats, but there was so much momentum behind the initiative that they knew it was popular, so they went ahead and passed it last March of 2024.
So Democrats have said this new legislation fixes confusion about Initiative 2081. What's the confusion?
Yeah, their contention, the folks behind Senate Bill 5181 and the companion legislation on the House side, which is HB 1296, they said it needed to be amended, that the Parental Bill of Rights needed to be amended to align with existing state and federal law. So they're saying, there's some confusion, they claim, supporters of SB 5181 claim there's some confusion, that maybe there's conflict with federal law. Like, do schools really need to tell parents right away if their kid is, seeing a counselor? Say, I've got some questions. I think I might be a boy trapped in a girl's body. They're saying that the Parental Bill of Rights conflicts with federal law protections for student privacy. And so they contend that the Senate Bill 5181 is necessary to clear up confusion as to student privacy protections versus parents' rights to know. That is at least the contention of supporters of this legislation, which received, after quite a bit of debate on the Senate floor Wednesday, ultimate passage out or off of the full Senate. So that's the contention of supporters, but there was a lot of passionate debate from minority Republicans ahead of its passage off the Senate floor.
And what amendments did Republicans offer, and were any of them accepted?
Yeah, one of the amendments that ultimately was accepted said, okay, wait a minute, parents should be notified right away whether they've been a victim of a crime at school or they themselves had been accused of a crime. They said, wait a minute, you should have to tell me if, say, there was an accusation of sexual abuse by a staff member, right, at school. The amendment that was offered by Republicans said, I want to know right away if my child has been, is a potential victim of a crime. The companion legislation on the House side, 1296, said the same thing. And after Republicans made that argument, Democrats received a ton of complaints and pushback saying, wait a minute, You're telling me that you as a school don't have to inform me that my child is the victim of an alleged crime. So they allowed this on the Senate side. Supporters allowed that amendment to be adopted into the legislation. One of the other ones that was offered, though, wanted to remove the emergency clause. And that one went back and forth several times before ultimately being rejected. Republicans were saying, why do you need to attach an emergency clause to this, which makes it referendum proof? And the Republicans were saying, it should be no emergency. If it really is an emergency, we need to get it passed sooner than 90 days. Make the argument why this is such an emergency. That was rejected ultimately in the final version that again passed on Wednesday off of the Senate floor. It was a party line vote, but you have majority Democrats have, a huge majority in both the House and Senate here in Olympia, and it passed as is, although there's rumblings this isn't going to be the end of it. I did speak on Thursday with Brian Haywood, founder of Let's Go Washington. That's the group that gathered all of the signatures that got the Parental Bill of Rights before lawmakers last year. Haywood tells me he's outraged, furious. He has a few other choice words that I can't I can't say because of FCC rules, but none too happy about this push to undo the Parental Bill of Rights. So there's rumblings of a potential another initiative campaign, some other things that they're considering, not ready to announce what that's going to be, but they're not going to sit idly by after 450,000 Washingtonians signed the Bill of Rights, only to have it wiped away by majority Democrats in Olympia. So we'll have to stay tuned to see what they do with that one.
Well, Carlene, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.